Hello, everybody.
Hello, welcome to the Alchemists Inkwell.
This is your spiritual podcast for grounded people.
I'm Emily.
And I'm KristaLyn. And this is Egypt Part 2.
Yeah. And honestly, hopefully there's not a part 3, but there very well might be.
Speed run. We might be doing Egypt speed run too. So yeah. Oh gosh.
Honestly, like it was one of the most incredible experiences ever, this particular Egypt trip, because of how much we did. And so it's hard for us to like cut that short or like limit it from your guys's purview, because you should get to know.
Yeah, we want to tell you. We want to tell you everything, but we also don't want to make this the entire podcast from now on. Like, we've got Higas to get to. But also, like, just so you know, if we don't cover everything, come on a trip with us. Experience it firsthand, because it's just that good. People keep asking me, like, oh, how was Egypt? And I get transported back, and I'm just like, I'm on a felucca right now. Don't bother me.
Like, it's just magical. I don't know. Every time someone asks to do the same thing, where I'm like, I can't even describe it fully for you how good this was. And honestly, we would love you to come on the trip. We do have space open on Peru, which is in next March of 2026. And that is still open there, and we would just love to have you on that note. Just come with us and experience how magical it is. Even if you're not someone who's like super anchored to Peru, I promise you will get so much out of this journey. Just as if you're someone who's not super anchored to Egypt, right? Like, there's obviously people have always want to go to Egypt because the pyramids, whatever. I mean, it's everywhere we've ever gone has been just as powerful. It's wild. But yeah, so come with us, come hang out.
It's gonna be super fun. And on that note, let's explain what it's like to actually be on these trips by continuing our recap of Egypt, which I love this. I've been looking forward to this. Yeah,
me too. So the next place we always go is Saqqara, which is where I turn into a penguin.
Yes.
Which listen. So
not the kind of penguin that's on an island that's being tariffed for no reason, but like the kind of penguin that gives you pebbles.
Yeah.
Because.
Oh my God. Did you see the video that someone made to Can You Hear the People Sing? And it's the penguins, and it's so good. Preparing to fight the tariffs, and it's like them waddling to the tune of Can You Hear the People Sing? Chef's kiss. No notes. It was so good.
So good. Sorry, I had to.
Yeah, so the reason I turned into a pebble penguin, and we talked about this just briefly last time, but they're all over the ground at Saqqara, which Saqqara is the step pyramids. So if you've ever, studied Egypt, whatever, it's the step pyramids. There's a lot of pyramids in Egypt, by the way. We touched on this before, but like there's a lot, not just the ones that we visited.
It was a thing for them for quite a long time. Yeah,
exactly. So at the Saqqara pyramids, it's the step pyramids, though, and it's also the first place that they actually wrote on the walls inside of a pyramid with hieroglyphics and images, etc. So there's a lot of very powerful energy there that comes up there. But there's also all of the precious stone that they use to construct, not like the insides of the pyramids. We're talking like black granite, red granite, limestone, and alabaster had to be shipped in from quarries that were down south, that were like in Upper Egypt, which is southern Egypt, and like up the river to the pyramid site. That's how they had to get there. So then when we're there and there's pebbles of those materials all over the ground, that means that those used to be part of a temple, part of the pyramid, part of some sort of thing. There's so many things like ruins that are around there. So of course I turn into a penguin. I'm going to give everybody alabaster from inside that whatever used to be inside of a pyramid. Like, that's so cool.
I was packing I'm coming out to see you tomorrow. FYI, everybody, Sacred Spaces Getaway is this weekend, so I'm going to be traveling to see and Rebecca and all the wonderful people who are going. And I was going through my bag, which is the same one I had in Egypt, and I was like, oh, here's my alabaster from Saqqara. And I was like, you didn't get a pebble yet.
Everybody got pebbled, okay?
Everybody
Both
got
trips, everyone gets pebbled. I take a lot of care with making sure, and they talk at me, okay? They talk at me. Anyway, we talked about that before. But the cool thing is Hani runs us in backwards for Saqqara. So instead of going in the way everyone else goes in, we do reversed. And that makes it so we're the only ones inside of the pyramids when we do that. Jeez, Jack.
That's Zelda. My bad.
Jay Zelda. That's so funny. I don't know if you guys heard the puppers. If you did, Zelda is speaking the language of her people. She must sing the song of her brethren. Anyway, so what you do is he takes us inside, like the first example we have of a tomb. And now this tomb is really interesting and cool because, one, it's the first example of an ancient graffiti we have on the trip. And I love ancient graffiti. And what I mean by ancient graffiti is like ancient people went in there and looted it, but also carved hieroglyphics in the wall. Ancient times, like to graffiti. I'm making a deck of ancient graffiti, like an oracle deck of it. I'm very passionate about it. So I love it for that reason. Also, it's a woman's tomb. She was like a very high-ranking official. So we get to go in there and see examples of everyday life, see examples of everyday people. And on a spiritual note, we also get to see our first false door of the trip. Yes. And the false door, Krista and I have history with the false door.
We have history with false doors. But it's also where we get to see, like, again, this is, I think you mentioned it, my dogs were barking really loudly, so apologies if this is a repeat. But this is the first example of the hieroglyphics and stuff in a temple. This is like the earliest example, the first ones they discovered, including goddess Nut, which is literally just the whole ceiling painted blue with gold stars carved into it, which represents the goddess Nut, who is the sky, or specifically the Milky Way.
Yeah, so and that's in the first pyramid we go in, not the first little, because first we go into a tomb. You're right, so that's where I was at, is talking about the tomb. But yeah, we will, we get to see goddess Nut, and she is one of our faves.
Yeah, love her.
I would say
she's right Nut. There. The blue one up there, that's her.
Yeah, I'm going to paint my bathroom ceiling as a goddess Nut, because that's just what's going to happen. But in this, just to touch really quick on the tomb, we see the first false door. The false door is where the soul would come in to enter the mummified body and visit and check on the tomb. It was like a door between us and the Duat. And the energy of the door is really interesting. Last year, when we went to Egypt, Krista and I got to stand in front of the largest door, the largest false door that I've ever seen, including the ones that exist in the museum, which, by the way, there's so many false doors in the museum. That place is so filled with spiritual activity, because it's literally just like portal, 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 portal. Like, it's all over. And that's what they are. Even if they're removed from their original location, they're literally constructed, activated portals. They're surrounded. All the hieroglyphics are spells in the false door to literally be spell work for the soul. So it is a lot of portal energy in this museum.
And Hani literally read the spells out loud to us and said, these are magical spells for this purpose. And if you think about it as like in Emily Wilde, there are fairy doors and they use it to keep it active and whatever. It's just like that. It is just like that. So when you go to the museum there, you're almost at like a Grand Central Station or like, it feels like a Ghibli movie.
The Ministry of Magic, how they had all of the flu that popped in.
Yeah, love that. That's a good idea. Yeah.
That's how it feels, like, genuinely. And so this one's located still in the tomb, and it's really cool. So you can sit in front of it and really feel. And when we were here last time, we saw that biggest example, and we both channeled in like, oh, this is where like a deity soul would enter the pharaoh on purpose. While he was still alive, a deity soul would come in and enter the pharaoh to help him be like a deity for his people. Like, this was a huge portion, like, where that would happen. Krista saw hieroglyphics like in the air.
Yeah, the first time I got to go to the first false door that we're talking about, I channeled hieroglyphics that actually ended up being a sentence. And that was really cool. It helped me understand my soul name. But the thing I channeled independently that time was that this kind of activates you to a higher level. It almost pulls your energy, vibration, or frequency up a notch or more. And then, of course, got the same thing when we got to stand there the second time last year. So that validation was like re-emphasized. And especially the door that we got to do last year had like 7 layers to it, which of course to me is like the 7 planets that govern the 7 heavens and stuff. Like, of course there are these layers between the divine creator space, which is acknowledged in Egyptian theology, that comes down and sort of connects with you in those false door spaces. Yeah. It's really, really cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. And you can definitely feel the connection they have to the Duat and like the energy that comes through from that, which is just magical. Anyway, we get to see that first. So it's just important to note. Then we go into our first pyramid that's not like the Great Pyramids. It is
Zoser.
No, isn't Zoser the other one?
No, the little one is not Zoser. You're right. Zoser is the big step pyramid.
Yeah.
This one, I don't know that we...
No, we know it. It's okay. I'll find it. Yeah. I'll find it. We'll keep talking about it. If you hear me clack about it, that's why.
Yeah. So as you look, so this is the pyramid where you get to go down into a very miniature version of what you would do in the Great Pyramid. How we said, like, you're bent in half going up. This one, you're bent in half for a little bit going down. And so this pyramid is different, where we didn't have to go up into the chamber. We went down into the chambers, and there were more chambers in here. It's not just one room. There's a room to the side, a chamber that you kind of come out into, and then another room to the other side. So it kind of forms like a T. And in one room, was for like storage of offerings and the things that the person would need in the afterlife. And then if you go to the room that would have been to the right, this is where the walls are made out of alabaster with hieroglyphics carved into them. The ceiling is Nut, and the tomb would have been there. the sarcophagus would have been there. And like, because the walls are made out of alabaster, if you hold up a flashlight to the wall, it glows from behind, because that's how alabaster works with its translucence. And it's just really the prettiest thing that you can imagine. The first location also has hieroglyphics in it telling the story of this person who was clearly like a business owner of some sort. There were hieroglyphics on the wall.
It's the pyramid of Unas.
Unas, yeah. Yeah.
I got there.
There was I want to just mention this really quickly. There was a pyramid in the first one, not a pyramid, a hieroglyph in the first one of a hippo giving birth. It's literally a hippo with a baby hippo coming out the back end. Yeah. So like, that's how in depth some of these hieroglyphs can get. Then we go into the Unas pyramid, where you have those alabaster walls and that kind of stuff. And also the random like minor deity we ran into.
Yeah. So in this, so you go down this little shaft, which is very Indiana Jones, by the way. Yeah. It feels very Indiana Jones the whole time, which is also great that we're the only ones in there, because I could not imagine having a bunch of other tourists in that space. Well, it is not that's big. What
it's like in the Great Pyramid going up. It's insane.
No, thank you. Anyway, you go down into it, and there's a room of it's basically just lines of the same hieroglyphic sentence over and over and over again, with the cartouche of the king, which is the cartouche is the protective symbol. Oh, I wish I was wearing it. I'm wearing the pillar of Osiris today. Okay, cool. Yeah,
it looks like this.
Yeah, looks like that. I'm wearing the Pillar of Osiris, who haunted me this entire trip and was like,
I'm also wearing my Sekhmet.
I get it.
If you're watching the video, the Sekhmet that I'm wearing, that I will describe, hopefully we have enough time for it, is important. So
yeah. So we went in there. We got what walls are alabaster, what are not. The color's still there. It's really, really beautiful. And then there's one room where they don't put lights, and it's just blank walls. And it was obviously for the offerings for the afterlife, like the storage location of these stuff for the afterlife for the pharaoh. Like, it was obviously where the store, but you have to like kind of go into under this thing, and you pop up, and there's like 3 blank rooms that are in the dark. And so we're all in there with flashlights. Weston scared the shit out of like 4 different people on purpose in that space, by the way. It was hilarious. And they were not trustful of him in small spaces after that, but that is of his nature deeply. But then in one room, immediately I walked in, and there's a very intense minor deity in there, and he's pissed the fuck off because people have graffitied all over the walls. And he was not there in ancient times. It was very clear he's been in there in modern times only. Like, he was assigned to be in this space because people have graffitied everything in the walls. And he was so mad. He's like, don't write on the wall. Like, he was like coming, and we're like, whoa, we're not gonna, I promise we're not gonna. And then he kind of chilled out a little bit, but every time we went in, it was like, I don't want the walls. It was like, okay, we won't do that. He was very intense and not chill.
Well, and we discerned that he's basically like a minor deity of memory. So he was very staunch about, I remember everything and everyone. And I think, wasn't it like he even remembered us from last year? And when we identified, like, it's us again, like, we're going to do this. This is our intention here, blah, blah, blah. He was like, well, fine. Still not nice, but like a grumpy kind of minor deity spirit, there to protect the walls from people who do stupid stuff, to be perfectly honest with you. Like, this happens later, but you actually, we have crystals that we give out to people on these trips because it's us, and they would take them with them into sacred locations so that they could be charged up. However, sometimes the security would notice them and be like, the crystal's in your bag, like they knew, because people will use rocks and do graffiti on the walls in these temples and literally bring them in for that purpose. So very valid concern for the minor deities and people who just guard those sites in physical.
Which also, there's literal curses written on the walls of the tombs and the pyramids, whatever, for whoever disturbs this or harms this place, like what will happen to you. Wouldn't be me. Nope. Wouldn't be me. Those curses are not pleasant.
Yeah.
Not pleasant. And so, and that deity specifically, he's just a minor deity. He just hangs out in that hole and yells at people. But oh my God, I would not want to be someone who wrote on the wall of that pyramid. Their life, I'm sure, gets absolutely wrecked. Absolutely wrecked. He's very powerful. Also, I just want to touch really quickly. This was the place where one of our travelers fell down and smashed their face into the ground. Oh my gosh, yes. Getting off of the bus at Saqqara, one of our travelers, who we absolutely adore, she's traveled with us before, tripped on a rock and fell and face planted, like full face planted onto the earth. And she cut open her forehead, she cut open her nose, she broke her glasses, which we managed to fix, but they were still kind of scratched up. She broke her phone screen protector stuff, whatever. Les and I were over there with Hani, like getting her up and making sure she was okay and getting her band-aided and all that sort of things. And she turns to me because she has the best attitude in the world, and she was like, so a blood sacrifice is good, right? And I was like, yeah, it's good. Let's not do it again, but it's very good. And she was like, who do you think I just offered it to? I was like, well, probably Geb, the earth god, because you just put your face on the dirt. And she was like, okay. And then the rest of the trip, she kept being like, not today, Geb. Nothing from you. Like, if she'd see like something stick out of the ground. And it was great. But I will say, the bruising and the cuts she had should have taken multiple weeks to heal. By the end of the trip, when we were leaving, which was less than 6 days after this happened, completely gone.
Yeah.
100% gone.
Also, on a more like humanity note, this was one of the days where we had a security guard join us, as does occasionally happen in Egypt. It's part of their cultural thing to keep their tourists protected, which totally appreciate. The guards are usually really nice. And this one in particular, Kathy's glasses got broken, so he gave her his sunglasses.
I know.
And like he held his arm out for her the rest of the day. At every location, Kathy was walking arm in arm with our security guard. I think his name was Muhammad, but I'm not sure. I knew it that day. But yeah, that's what the guy said at your when you got into. We'll get to that too.
That story.
This is a quote. It's not like a generalization.
No.
But he was so kind and there for her the entire day, just making sure that we were safe and all of that. Not even just protected safe, but like enjoying your time still kind of safe. They are so amazing.
So wonderful. So wonderful. And then you walk from that pyramid and we walk up the hill, and then we're basically in the courtyard of this beautiful pyramid of Zoser, which is, it's spelled Djoser, by the way, in case you're wondering to look it up. It's not with the Z, but it's pronounced Zoser. And it's a step pyramid, and it's huge and gorgeous and beautiful. And it's the first pyramid, right?
It is the first pyramid that was built. Yeah.
It's the first pyramid.
It doesn't have hieroglyphs in it because it was the original pyramid, and the other one, the Onas pyramid, was built later when they had perfected how they want to build pyramids. The Great Pyramid also doesn't have hieroglyphs in it, but they had perfected how they build pyramids with that one, which is why it's so fancy and recognized.
Yeah.
The other one is in disrepair, but has hieroglyphs because at that point they did.
Yeah. Honestly, to be 100% honest, the Zoser pyramid is so much more magical to me than the Great Pyramid is, by a lot. And this courtyard was a huge center of ritual because they would bring out both the statue of Wajeb, which is the vulture. And I just had it and then it went away. The cobra. They'd bring out the statue of the cobra god too. They'd set them in the middle, and then the king had to prove that he was still like able to function. Yeah. And he would have to run 100 laps? A certain amount of laps around the courtyard. It was supposed to be
every 30 years, but he would do it less frequent than that. And he had to run laps around the courtyard to show everybody, like, I'm still young and strong and I can protect you.
Yeah. And it was a healing center. So there's healing temples on the sides that you can walk into and still get the healing and still get the energy balance based on, like, how you stand there and, like, what pulls you. It's really, really cool. But then we go in the step pyramid. At this point, I become the penguin because now I'm at the rock zone and I'm like, rock, 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 rock. Like, it's, like, a little ridiculous. But there's also puppies. So if it wasn't just rocks, it's also puppies.
What filet is for kittens, the Zoser pyramid is for puppies.
So many puppies. And like not just dogs, like puppies.
Puppies. Like puppies playing with each other, puppies. Yeah. So cute.
Weston tamed like an entire herd of them, and they followed him around for like a huge chunk of this adventure. And then when you go into the pyramid, you actually kind of go down, but it's not like in the tiny corridors. You go down and then in, and there's columns for the entrance into this pyramid.
Yeah, and the echoing is so like sound healing, toning was a big thing here. And when you go in there, you can almost feel why, because as you go in there, everything echoes in just the perfect way. It reminds me of if you go to Disney World and you go on the Pirates of the Caribbean ride, and at the beginning you hear the song of the siren, and it's that perfect amount of echo that happens here naturally. And I noticed, especially on the second trip, everybody was sort of naturally toning, and we all harmonized.
We all ended up like really singing inside this pyramid. Not like a specific song. We were all just like humming our own space, but all harmonized and echoed. And you can still see inlays of crystal in the ceiling. That's like that's shimmery. Yeah. But like it's like sparkly in there. We're harmonizing. It's literally the healing center where you heal stuff. It was a beautiful experience. I'll never forget that because it was just a natural. We didn't plan on harmonizing. It wasn't intentional. We just did.
Everybody just absentmindedly started doing it, and it worked out really well.
Yeah, it was beautiful. And the vibration of that was so amazing. And it wasn't loud. It's not like we were like loudly doing it. We were just doing it enough where we all kind of felt that resonance. And it definitely healed some stuff for me.
It did. I think. Yeah, it felt kind of like being on the boat.
It did. Well, what I will say too is before I came to Egypt, I was having the most horrific acid reflux issues, like Tums multiple times a day, waking up being afraid I was going to choke on like bile or something. I have really bad shit going on with my stomach anyway. So like, don't worry about it. It's not like super out of the norm for like me since my gallbladder stuff happened. Like my stomach is just, she's got opinions. Okay.
Great way to put it.
And that's where we're at. But I was really having a struggle. And once we got to Egypt, I stopped having that acid reflux. And I thought it was just, okay, well, I'm actually having good food. So, of course, I'm not having it. But after this experience, especially this experience of singing in the pyramid there, I have not felt it literally at all since then. And I am very sure that is what actually ended up healing some huge issue within my actual stomach, was that moment we had at Saqqara. Because it is a healing place. I cannot describe the level of healing energy that's at this location. Also, it was really hot that day, and it still was fine.
Yeah. It was not Japan level of heat experience, even though it was hot. It it felt fine. We were okay.
Yeah. So, then we go into the temples, and allows you to, there's 2 temples that most people don't even go into or care about, to be totally honest, especially one. One is missing the roof of it, which doesn't matter to us, but apparently all other tourists just are like, oh, never mind that, and just like, don't go into it. I don't understand. We're always alone with that one. No one ever comes over. It's just us. And you go in and you can see the balance of energy, like where you're out of balance, essentially, by looking at whatever little alcove you're kind of drawn towards, and then you can rebalance it through the rest of the journey through the trip. And then this time, we also went over to this other section, which is the first example in all of history for there to be columns, like pillars. First example ever. And they're beautiful and amazing, but they're not freestanding. They're like still connected to like a slab that like comes down, but there you see the like carved design, like whatever we see from like classical Roman and Greek, just and from this moment. And so I may have cried about that. I really like columns.
You and Katie.
Yeah, I know. I was texting anytime I'd see a good one, I'd like, Katie, that's a good column for you. Look at this pillar.
Katie was there for the first week. The second week, if we saw a different one, especially at Philae, there were different types of columns because that was more in the Greco-Roman Hellenistic era.
Every column in Philae was unique. Yeah. And I couldn't handle.
There were so many details. It was amazing. They had perfected columns by that point.
But there's also this little alcove by the first columns that, again, most people don't go by. And in that little alcove, we saw these little critter guys.
Yeah.
They were these little, like, squat, kind of man-shaped things with these little pot bellies and, like, these vicious little teeth and, like, little face. If you're listening, you get what I'm saying with a
Yeah, you can actually make the noise and you'll see the face that I was making. Or watch it on YouTube because it's worth it.
But that's what they looked like, and they were just sitting in the corners of this place, like with the trash, and they're very thrilled about their trash, and they did not want us to touch it. And we're like, okay, cool. But the neat thing was, is there's these 2 little like kind of rooms. They were open to the sun, but they had these like top facades across the front of them, and they were all Osiris pillars, which are for stability and grounding. So if you stood in one of those rooms, your energy was immediately stable and grounded, like you're literally walking through a portal made of the pillars that are around my neck. Yeah. And it was like immediate. So there was these little guys, but also it was like important to stand in there anyway. So it was like, excuse me, sorry, gonna stand in your space real quick and get grounded. It was really neat. Really, really neat. I loved that spot, honestly. Yeah. It was
we later discerned from our time in the history section at the new museum of Cairo that those are a form of certain jinn.
Yeah.
That were associated with, I think, Osiris. Wasn't it Osiris?
It wasn't the new museum. It was the old one. We went into the deity room and they had little statues of them.
Yeah. But they had descriptions of them in the new one as well, associated with
And when we went to the place afterwards that we go, Memphis. That we go after Saqqara, there was a statue of one that was big. And we were like, that's the guys!
It was one of those moments where we run over to each other and it's like, that.
Did you see? It's the thing! We saw that together.
We're really fun at places like this.
I can't tell you how validating it feels, though, to be like, okay, do you see those little guys in the corner? And like describe them to each other and just be like, okay, well, we both saw the same thing. Cool. That alone is validating. But then going to this one of the ancient metropolises of this entire country and seeing a statue of the thing you just saw that wasn't depicted. We saw it in the energy. They were there. And seeing that being like, so we were right. It's just like it's wild. It's a wild experience. I don't even know how to describe it. No, not at all. Then to exit, we actually go through where everyone enters. God, Mercury. Anyway, to exit, we go out through the entrance, and there's alcoves on each side, and each side housed a different deity statue. So you can go and step into the alcove and get the energy that's left over from whatever deity used to be there. So we always recommend people like intuitively wander into the ones that they feel most aligned with, and then they will get the energy that they're my God, I cannot talk, that they're most aligned with.
Well, and it's always so fun walking on my way out. I'll be walking through there and just sort of tuning into like what used to be there. And then I'll notice something to the side and I'll look over and it's like, nope, that's just one of our people. Like instead of statues, I get to see our people standing in there as I walk out. And it's just such a really cool thing to look around and be like, I know you, you're doing something awesome. This is so cool.
And then you walk out through the main gate, like entranceway, and the walls are polished and it's the coolest feeling to like walk through and like cleanse yourself of that energy as you go. And there's constant excavations around Saqqara. So you're driving out through all these excavated, like archaeologists working over here, archaeologists working over there, there's temples over there, they're getting excavated. Like it is constant. And so it's a really cool example, especially for our travelers, to be like, look, we've only discovered maybe 30% of what Egypt has to hold. And like, this is still a thing. They were starting a brand new excavation when we were there. Like it was their day one. Yeah. They were taking stuff off of a mound that they hadn't excavated before. Yeah. And Hani was very excited about it.
Hani's like, these are our heroes. Yeah.
That's so cool. And then we go to Memphis, which we just mentioned. Yeah. Memphis is not particularly exciting because it all has crumbled down. There's not a lot of like standing structures. I did sit down on our first time going there and just try to channel back into the history to see how far it extended in either direction. Far is the answer. Far is the answer.
Yeah. We can hear music. Yeah, we were channeling it in. Like it was very tight too. The tighter streets and that kind
very
of stuff,
tight, very narrow, very tall, elegant buildings. There was like mud huts around too for like living structures, but even those felt covered in limestone and like well constructed. And it was interesting too, because sitting there where you are in like the little section that they now call Memphis. It's like the far left or right corner of what would have been the town. So it's almost out of town, like not out of town, but like almost out of town. Like it stretches so far in the other direction that is now just fields and farmlands and train tracks. And there's so many things.
When you go to Edinburgh and you go down those small alleyways that are called Close, like Mary King's Close or whatever, it felt kind of like that, where it was very community centric. They still have that actually in modern Cairo, where it's like you could see the communities, especially during Ramadan, where like streamers were between the buildings and stuff, but you could see it there and you could hear music.
It was really, really cool to feel that. That being said, like it's worth going to Memphis, but there's really not a ton to see. And every time they try to build something there, they find new ruins. So it's like, it's a huge complex. So it's a nice little break. We get to see a huge statue of Ramses II. Like I could crisscross applesauce in his belly button levels of huge. And he's laying down. And he has some ancient graffiti on him too, which makes me deeply pleased. And he's right by the statue of the little goober thing that we saw. I'm sure they have names, but we don't know what those names are. The little goober gin. And then we go to this really cool lunch. It's a really cool lunch.
It's so nice.
It's so lovely. It's in this like own little courtyard thing, and they play music when you enter, and it's a buffet of all this vegetarian food, and then they bring little mini grills to the table that have your meat on it, which neither of us eat, but everyone else seems to enjoy. It's just so pleasant. There's kitties and there's fresh juices and smoothies and ice cream. And it's just like a really, really lovely, like little break. And then the first time we went to essential oils after that. Yeah. And that was our culture stop, which we had a great time at.
Our groups do really well in these culture stops because we end up like getting in a room, watching either glass be blown into really cool holders of oil. There's a word for that. Bottles. And then...
Yep, correct.
Oil bottles, or even like oil diffusers, or we'll see how papyrus is made or whatever. But it's just like this really cool like gathering for us to have, and so we all end up kind of decompressing while we're learning. And it's especially when they're giving us like oil samples and you're inhaling peppermint into your soul.
Okay. Seriously though, they have this type of mint and it cleanses your entire being of any impurities.
Right out the crown chakra. I swear, it goes in through the nose and out the crown chakra.
What did Liz say? I can smell Tuesday.
I can smell last Tuesday.
It's like it cleanses. And the cool thing is they have oils that are like ingestible. They have oils that are topical. They have oils that are for smells. They have oils that are medicinal. And they're all made in the ancient tradition of like how they used to do it in ancient Egypt. They still do it now, like buried in the desert at an oasis, and then grab it and bring it to us. It's really amazing.
They get me at these places. They get me bad.
Oh yeah, my wallet hates to see me going.
Because the oils are so useful in ceremonial magic, like to this day. Oils and incense, when we get to the spices shop.
Well, and then the other thing we did for the second trip is we didn't do oils this time. We did oils when we went down to Aswan. We did Egyptian cotton. So we went to an Egyptian cotton store and people got galabayas, really which are beautiful. Galabayas and abayas are essentially traditional flowy robe dress type things that you wear on, you know, when it's really hot, basically, or for modesty. And people got them so they could wear them on the felucca when we went sailing, which was honestly, I wish I would have done it. I didn't because I didn't feel like trying stuff on because I was just in a neurodivergent moment with that.
I was already overwhelmed and I didn't want to have to figure out how to move my body enough to try something on.
That was also a little bit where I was at, and I think next time I'll probably change that for myself. But yeah, the people who got it, amazing, wonderful, beautiful, gorgeous. Glad people did.
Everybody looked stunning. It was great.
Yeah. And then we go and we get on the sleeper train. We go to the hotel first and we, you know, get food and we take food to go and then we go get on the sleeper train. But there's a new train station and it is the most incredible building.
It's gorgeous. The train station is brand new.
The train station is magnificent. Magnificent. I can't even, it has this giant glass pyramid, like the Louvre wishes level of glass pyramid.
Yeah.
And then you get on the train and it's not.
It's not new. It's not new. The social car, which is more of the smoking car, is haunted. I did not venture in there, but you can
profoundly
remote into it and you can feel it. And this is where the gin took my protein bars.
Yeah. So the first train ride, Krista's window would open every time a train drove by, and so they didn't sleep.
I was so excited because I was like, I know this jam. I brought a pillow. I brought a sleeping bag liner. I have thick socks in case it gets too cold. Like, I am ready. I'm going to sleep on this one. Because last time I didn't sleep. I didn't sleep so much that I just woke up and did the Aries Ingress astrology for Egypt for that year because I had time. So this time I'm like, I'm going to sleep. So I get myself all set up. I'm feeling like blessed with the level of preparedness I have.
Yeah.
And then my window was kind of open, so I shut it, which was hard because it's like old. And I'm like, cool, I got this. It's perfect. Like, everything's working, everything's fine. Then a train comes by, and every time a train comes by, which would, by the way, about every 10 minutes, every time a train comes by, the window would go and like smack open. And then I'd have to be like, okay, but close. And then eventually, after about 5 times, it did not close anymore. So then I have this gale of wind coming in, and every time a train comes by, it's this loud noise. And I was just like, cool, we're not sleeping right now. So I got up and I waited for midnight. I did my workout for the day because it was midnight. And I'm like, cool, because we get in early when you go from Cairo to Luxor, because it's like a, I don't know, 7-hour train ride to begin with. So you're not going to sleep a ton, and you're going to get there around 6:30 in the morning. They wake you up at around like 5:30 or so to give you a breakfast on the train, and which is like choose your own adventure of bread, basically.
It's bread with bread and some bread on the side.
Yeah, and some bread that had like, I think, chickpeas on it. I don't know. I just ate it because I was like, I need something, and that looks like protein.
They gave us a cup of feta one time, just once.
Yeah, it was nice to have the feta. So I got up and I was like, I'm just going to sleep like I do on an airplane then. I put my thing on, I slept cozied up in a corner, and as soon as I closed my eyes, knock, 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 breakfast is coming around. Okay. And this always happens though, because this was the night before Karnak. And I'm telling you, Sekhmet doesn't like me rested. So I'm going to let you talk about the train for a second before we get into Saqqara, or to Karnak.
To Karnak, yeah. So I will also say the train was really fun because our groups were so much fun. And like one of our travelers was like, I bet I can fit up in this tiny little place where the luggage fits. And she like launched herself up there and like wiggled in there. We have this picture of her like, ha, like I did it. And it's so fun.
Like the little gym people. Yeah.
It's so fun. One of our travelers brought, she managed to smuggle edibles because she needs them to sleep. And so she brought them all the way to Egypt and she ate one and she could not stop laughing for like 3 hours. And it was so funny. We were just hanging out, like dying laughing with her. Our conductor. Go.
I was going to say she smuggled them in by like burying them in other snacks. So we had nonstop snacks throughout the entire trip because of her.
Okay.
It was great.
I love you. If you're listening to this, we love you so much. But also, she had an entire like suitcase of snacks she bought in Cairo, and the conductor could not stop laughing at her. He like walked in and was like, walked away. At one point, he hears her laughing and he goes, what? Did she go flying? It's just so funny. But also the conductor thought I was insane because, and this was not the conductor that was the djinn that Krista got to experience. Their conductor was fun and stole protein bars. Our conductor, he walks in and he goes, "Hello, have you ever been to Egypt before?" You know, and I was like, "Oh yeah, this is basically like my third time." And he was like, "Oh, okay. Well, have you ever been on the sleeper train before?" Like he was very clearly like, "There's no way you've been on this sleeper train.
You don't know what you're getting
you know?"
into.
And I was like, "Yeah, it's my third time on the train too." And he like paused and he was like, 3 times? On the sleeper train? I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "Uh-huh. What does this button do?" Like immediately started like quizzing me on like what stuff did. And I like told him all of it and he was like, "Okay. 3 times on the sleeper train. Okay." And he just like left.
Gosh.
Yeah. I know that he went and was like, "The tall ginger couple. They've been here before."
Oh gosh. Meanwhile, in my car, we were all just hanging out in the hallway because, you know, that was like the most social thing we had access to. So we were all hanging out in the hallway talking about everything and kind of having our own little personal dinners. And we had each gotten, what was the good pizza-ish stuff?
Fatir.
Fatir. Like I had some fatir left over. The people, our travelers also, many of us had fatir because we knew it was a choose your own adventure of bread and like, you know, whatever you were going to have for dinner. Especially if you're a vegetarian, you wanted to come prepared. So we did. And so our guide came through and he's like a short person with very elvish kind of features. Not like short little person, just shorter. And he came by and he would talk to us and he was jovial. It was like really nice. And then one time I looked at him and I said to our travelers, it was Tiff and Genevieve specifically at this time, and I was like, "I think he's a djinn." Like I just get the impression. And then he comes by and makes this random cat sound behind me as he passes. And Genevieve was like, "I guess that's confirmed." And
without moving his mouth. It was a ventriloquist cat noise.
Yeah,
That's important.
He was able to like make noises and words probably in Arabic with this cat voice without moving his mouth. And eventually he comes around and he goes, "Give me beer," which is the libation for Egyptian deities. And I was like, "You guys," and they were like, "We don't have any beer. We don't have," he's like, "You don't have any beer?" And he would go and then come back. So eventually I'm like, "Oh my God, we need offerings." Yeah. And so he was
really quick on that too, just sorry to cut you off, but also it's Ramadan. There is no beer. Like you can't get beer. So like him asking for that is ridiculously out of pocket.
Yeah. So I'm like, I have protein bars and he keeps asking us for essentially offerings. So I think he was asking Genevieve, and Genevieve was like, "I don't have anything to give you." And I was like, "Here, have a protein bar." And he was like, "Oh, more." And so I was like, "Here, have another one." And I had like different flavors, and he's like, "Ooh, chocolate, peanut butter, lemon, give me another one." I'm like, "This is all I have." But there were 5 of us in the hall, and I'm like, "Oh my God, everybody needs an offering, otherwise somebody's gonna get cursed." So literally at one point I was rummaging my bag, I just threw a protein bar into the hallway for the person that hadn't been represented yet, and he takes all of them, takes Genevieve's fatir, heats it up for her, and brings it back so she can eat it heated, and never gave me back my protein bars.
You did offer them. In all honesty.
I thought, like, if there's a chance that this person is just straight human, I'll get them back. Like, this is a joke. It's a gag, whatever. No, they never came back. It cost 5 protein bars for 1 heated fatir, just so you know.
On top of that, so when you guys asked him his name.
Yeah, the next day, we decided to get a little brazen, and we were like, "So what's your name?" And he said, "Hani," which is the name of our guide. He was like, "Oh, it's Hani with an I, not with a Y." So later I went to Hani and I was like, "This conductor says his name is Hani." And Hani was like, "No, there's only room in the world for one Hani." Like, that was not his name. And it's so funny because if you look at our pictures, there are pictures of me looking at the conductor, and you can see on my face, and I'm like, "I know what you are. I know what you are."
Well, on top of that, though, too, not only did he have to know that our group leader was Hani, which he may have, but he had to also know how Hani was spelled and then distinguish that his was spelled differently, which is very weird because everybody and their brother is either Ahmed or Muhammad. So why do we care if it's Hani with an I? I'm not being racist, but like that's just true.
No.
Like,
yeah, they've said it to us too. But then Hani was like, no. And I then listened to Hani talk to him about it, and they both laughed. So I don't think this guy's name was Hani. No. But also, why would a djinn give you their name? So it makes sense.
It was an experience.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Now, I will say, so the first train ride took us to Karnak, and then when we rode it again, we rode from Cairo to Aswan. We'll do Aswan separately because I think it's important to talk about Karnak. Or maybe, we only have like 10 minutes left. Maybe we should save Karnak for next time.
Yeah, maybe
Unless we
because
want to speed
Karnak is
run.
its own thing. So many things happened at Karnak. We hope that you'll bear with us. For
So
next time would be ending up being like basically a Karnak slash bookend.
I would say
So
Karnak bookend, and probably let's talk about like Hatshepsut and Valley of the Kings next time. Just do
yeah,
like the
yeah,
Luxor circuit.
yeah. So we'll do Aswan now. We'll
Yeah,
only have Luxor to do on the next podcast. So we're
yeah.
doing great actually.
We're
Even though
killing
we're
it.
only on the train from Cairo right now, we can get Aswan done.
Yeah, I will say also with the Luxor stuff, like every temple, all the things we did Luxor were really big and important. So you want to stay there. I accidentally bribed myself into a crypt, genuinely
Yeah.
accidentally. So like that's a little sneak preview for next episode.
Yeah, I went to Karnak the first time and got stabbed by Sekhmet. I went to Karnak the second time and basically became a priest of Sekhmet. So
You know,
it's worth it.
yeah, yeah, and I met a very hungry man. That's the lead in. I've been a very hungry man. Anyway, so when we went down to Aswan, Krista's been to Aswan alone, not in our group trips. I've never been there before. And I will say just like initial impressions of Aswan, I really love the energy near the river. But once you get away from the river, the energy really bothers me. And I can't fully put my finger on exactly why it really bothers me, but it really, really bothers me. It's like so, I don't know if it's just chaotic. I don't know if there's like icky energy there. I don't really
Feels
know.
like
It's
a
not.
scribble outside the lines, and I'm not really sure what that's supposed to mean. I'm just
Yeah.
telling you what it feels like.
Like the energy near the river is incredible. You're looking at Elephantine Island. There's feluccas everywhere. The water is clear and blue because it's right at the mouth of the Nile, basically, like right at the beginning, like the very close to it anyway. And there's on the hill across from us, we learned there's a camel lighthouse, which I love. So a camel lighthouse is essentially a lighthouse. So when people crossing the desert on camel, because you're at the Sahara, like you're in the Sahara at this point, when they cross the desert on camel, they would know they're getting close to their trade route, which was Elephantine Island / Aswan. And I just think that's the cutest thing.
Yeah.
It's like, I love that. I love that so much. Yeah. So in Aswan, we stayed at our least favorite hotel, but that's fine. And we were
It
right
was
on the river,
nice.
though.
It was like it kind of reminded me of Japan a little bit because on the bottom floor was like a little mall,
Yeah.
and then you would go up and you would get into the hotel room situation.
Yeah. And the mall was very, very local. We went in there to buy some snacks, and a little girl and her mom stopped me, and her mom was like, say hi. And the little girl was like, no. And her mom was like, hi. And I was like, hello. And she was like, her name is this, my name is this. I forget what it was. And I was like, oh, it's so lovely to meet you. She's like, she really likes your hair. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I gave her like a little crystal, but it was really, really cute. Like it was just a very local energy and vibe that I just like really appreciated.
Yeah.
But the first night we went and had dinner at a Nubian village on Elephantine Island with a family on the roof. It was incredible. The food was incredible. The view was incredible. We were staring at the hotel across the river where Agatha Christie wrote her books. Right there, and looking at like all of the town of Aswan, which is amazing. There's a lot of temples and stuff in Aswan, and there's the High Dam. Now, all of us say it with me. Fuck you, High Dam. We don't stay in the dam, okay?
Yeah,
the river
we
also
do
hates
not.
the dam. When we went to Filet,
Yeah.
the river was so mad at the dam. We were like right by the dam on a boat, and I was like, oh my god, like she's pissed.
Well, and this is the dam, correct, that lost 22 archaeological sites, including Abu Simbel, which had to be moved. And I think there was
And
another one
Philae.
that had to be, yeah, Philae had to be moved as well.
Only 3 that made it out from the flood. So there was 22 that got buried. Only 3 made it out. It was Abu Simbel and then Nefertiti's temple, which was built literally next to Abu Simbel. 4 Abu Simbel. It's all the one complex. And then Philae. And that's it.
Yeah, and that's it. Everything else got flooded.
Which is fucked. And it's the reason that papyrus and lotus don't naturally grow in the Nile anymore, which is also messed up. And it's the reason they don't have any mud. So they don't have as readily building materials as they used to have because they needed the flooding of the Nile to have the mud. And now they don't have that. It's a
And you can
whole
imagine
ecosystem fuckery.
That takes off Sekhmet, which is probably, like Sekhmet was the representation of the destruction of the flooding of the Nile for the fertility and the healing that came from it. And that doesn't happen. That was their whole new year. Like it was a big deal. Sorry.
It's a big deal.
Historically, it's a big deal to me as an astrologer because it was the rising of Sirius every year that it would come around. So that's the dog days of summer, 8/8 Lionsgate. Like so many things come from this rising of the Nile, including the beginning of their calendar. And
It's a big
they
deal.
stopped it.
In the 60s, they dammed it up, and it flooded villages. Like people had to move. Like it was an issue, okay, and it's still an issue, and it's going to keep being an issue.
Widely regarded as a bad idea.
Yeah. Anyway, so we did that the first day. The next day, we had the option to go to Abu Simbel, of which all of us took it. Every one of our travelers was like, yes, we're going to Abu Simbel. We had to get up and be on the bus at 4 a.m., which was fine. I would have been there earlier, honestly.
Yeah. You tell me I'm going somewhere awesome. I will be awake.
And it was the coolest thing on a personal level. I found out really wonderful news as soon as I got on the bus. So that was really exciting. And Krista was like starting to doze off. I'm like, Krista, I have news.
We woke up and had like a little quiet whisper party.
We're like, oh my God, we're celebrating. I'm like, well, we're celebrating by going to Abu Simbel. Yeah. But you drive 4 hours through the Sahara. It's just desert on all sides. But occasionally it's broken up by a random field. And Hani's so proud of it because they've started trying to fertilize the land. So the government allows people, will pay people to move out there and start a farm, and they don't have to pay taxes or anything to the government on anything that they grow for 10 years. So people are now getting livelihood because they're trying to regreen the desert places where it used to be. And to prove that, we stopped at a coffee shop. It's the only coffee shop for the entire 4.5 hour drive through the Sahara. It's in the middle of the journey. You stop there, it's a coffee oasis. I walk in, they have these huge rounds of wood everywhere, like all over this coffee shop, and like big chunks of it are like holding down tablecloths and whatever. And I touch it and it was petrified. And I got so excited.
Yeah.
And the guy, I'm sure, thought I was literally insane because I was like, oh, this is so cool. Do you have small pieces? He was like, big, we find in the desert. I was like, okay, never mind. But it was so cool. I thought it was so cool. Like it used to be a rainforest, and it's like, yeah, it did.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah.
Ugh. So neat. And then we went to, by the way, the Sahara is beautiful. It's it's so incredible. And there's these big stone structures that just rise out of it. Some of them you're like, that's a temple or something. Like that's a pyramid or something.
Yeah.
And
it has to be.
It's so neat. And then we got to Abu Simbel. Abu Simbel, by the way, we are 11 miles outside of Sudan. That is how close you are to the Sudanese border. And it's on the banks of Lake Nasser, which is the largest man-made lake ever in the whole world. And it's man-made because of the dam. It used to be just the Nile.
Yep. And it used to be where Abu Simbel was.
So Abu Simbel is carved into a mountain. It's the huge temple with the four statues of the same king. Like if you see him sitting, the four. For perspective, the big toe, from the bottom of the big toe to the top of the big toe, is taller than me. That's how big these statues are. They're fucking huge. The other thing I found very interesting about this, so they were positioned in a really unique way where the sun would shine through all the way to the back of the temple to shine on the face of the king and or queen. For the king, it was on his coronation day and on his birthday, and for the queen, it was on their marriage day and her birthday. And they're facing kind of different directions. And there's a whole myth about that, but for time's sake, we won't share. But it's really interesting and cool that they built it that way. But I always thought it was very interesting. I've seen tons of pictures of Abu Simbel, never any of the inside. And so going inside was fascinating and amazing. The energy was incredible, like incredible.
Yeah.
Especially in the big temple of the kings, they had these offering rooms on the sides, and each offering room the offering rooms were filled with depictions of like what to offer the deity in the picture. So it'd be like a picture of the pharaoh kneeling down in front of a deity, offering them something. And it was, I don't know, 150 pictures of this. So I walked around and like energetically offered the thing that the pharaoh offered in front of each picture to each deity, specifically a lot to Thoth, because there's like 3 or 4 of them to Thoth. But to everybody else, I was like, oh, that one looks like oil. Here you go. That one looks like bread. Here's a goose. Yeah. Like just like energetically offering it to them because it was cool.
Yeah. Well, and the depictions there are so complete and intact, and like almost every deity that you could look for, like everybody was working with a certain energy of a deity there. And so I, at this point, had in my head most of who was working with whom. And so I'd be like, oh man, where's this person? There you go. It's this deity. Where's this person? There you go. There's this one. And so it was basically deity spotting the entire time and like figuring out who was working with them and how they could tap into that energy and see the representation of the deity they were working with. And this was the one location where we had more people there than just us, but still not that much.
No, it wasn't overcrowded. I was in the offering rooms by myself every time. I'd walk into a room and anyone who's in there would walk out. Which, I mean, I blame Thoth, like, thanks, buddy, for that one. Definitely, he cleared those out. But it wasn't crowded at all. It was magnificent, though. I cannot describe, like, the offering rooms meant more to me than the other parts of the temple because they were so activated by deity energy, and you could feel the deity still so present there. There's one of them we did walk into, though, and I was like, not for me. And Wes was like, nope. And it was the one that was, like, unfinished in, like, the corner. And we both walked in and we're like, nope, going out. Like you could tell that it hadn't been, because it wasn't finished. They hadn't put the correct protections and stuff around it. So stuff had gotten in there energetically over the years and it didn't feel right. But yeah, that one was cool. It was hot, by the way. It was really hot that day. And then the temple next to it is the temple of Nefertiti.
Nefertari?
I don't think so, because Nefertari was
the first one,
Akhenaten's wife, not Ramses' wife.
You're right. Yeah.
Right? Okay. So Nefertiti. I don't know. We're going to go Nefertiti. And her temple was so divine feminine. I can, like, there's not, like, distinctive differences. Huh?
Nefertari is at Abu Simbel.
Okay, Nefertari, not Nefertiti is Akhenaten's wife.
Yeah.
So Nefertari. But it's so divine feminine. I can't even describe the full detail of like why I would consider it divine feminine, other than of course like her statues are in front of it. But it's the way it's constructed, the elegance of it, something about it is so distinctly energetically different from her husband's counterpart temple that you just go in before.
Well, I think part of it is because the story of Nefertari, if I recall correctly, was when he went and married someone else, she got upset that she was no longer the primary queen. So she left and went back to a Nubian town. Yeah, so she went to Abu Simbel, which was a Nubian town. She was from a Nubian community. And so he went there and basically had to appeal to her and say, I will build this for you. Stop being upset and I'll still make you, instead of a queen, now you're a goddess. Yeah. And that was the whole thing. So this is where the woman was being appeased more than the man. Yeah. And so that really could lend itself to that energy.
And each of the columns had a different woman deity on it. Like all of the goddesses throughout the temple were there. And like even more obscure ones, like Nephthys was all over the place. And you might be like, Nephthys isn't that obscure. She's a goddess of magic. Yeah, she is though. She is on nothing. She is so limited.
Yeah. They don't depict her quite as much. And even when I would ask people, like, we knew that a couple of our travelers were working with Nephthys, and I would go to like in a jewelry store and say, do you have anything of Nephthys? And they'd be like, who?
Yeah.
So
not a common one. Nephthys. And I loved her. I kept working with her too. Every time I saw her, I'd be like, hey, magic friend. Like, if you don't know, I don't treat deities very seriously. I don't recommend to treat them the way that I do, by the way, but that's just how I naturally gravitate. And I've with good results most of the time. There's certain deities that I deeply hold reverence for, and I will bow and do the whole respect thing. But for the other ones, I'm like, hello. Hi, it's so nice to meet you. Like, it's just very shiny. But it's just what it is. But yeah, so that was really, really neat. Really, really neat. I will say though, that was the most aggressive bazaar and I hated it. Walking back to the bus, you had to go through the most aggressive bazaar. And they were, this poor woman, I was walking behind this couple, and I don't know what was, again, I blamed Thoth. Thank you, Thoth. I love you. But I didn't get bothered. But the woman in front of me, like, people would come at her and, like, push her into a corner. And her husband would have to, like, grab her and, like, pull her around. And I didn't have any issue like that. Like, I didn't have it at all. But I was just, like, watching this woman. I was like, what energy are you putting out that these people are coming at you so aggressively to, like, buy their scarves? Like, oh my goodness. It was a lot.
Yep. I think on our way out, something was going on. I can't remember what it was, but we had been talking about like protection and like our energies of like standing in our own space and that kind of stuff. So we had a couple of people come up to us, and out of nowhere I was just like, and I don't know why you think you can touch me right now, and they would leave. And so it was a really good exercise in the boundaries of a space like that.
It wasn't bad. Like, we were fine, but it was just like, woo, okay. Like, we've gone to a lot of bazaars at this point. This one is just really aggressive. It was really cute as we got on the bus to like drive out of the village that's like around Abu Simbel. All the kids were getting out of school and they'd all run to the side of the road just to wave at the buses, which was like just really cute, and I loved it.
And we all waved back. We were really excited.
Yeah. So yeah, that was our Abu Simbel day. Really quick, we could touch on filet. Do we want to? Okay. And then we'll start next time with talking about the Felucca, because that's how we get to Luxor anyway.
That's how you get to, yeah. Cool.
So the next day we did Philae before we got on the Felucca. Philae is the temple of Isis that is located on an island in the middle of the Nile. I will say it's from like the more Greco-Roman period.
Like the Ptolemy era.
The Ptolemy era. But also there's temples on this island that were also constructed by the Greeks, also constructed by Hadrian, also constructed by Trajan. There's like literal other Roman temples. So there's something about the ley lines and magic of this place that was extra amplified, because most of the other structures in Egypt, of which were also all uncovered during that time, do not have that same level of like classical Greek / Roman like temple building influence at all. So Philae's energy is wild. Also, it was moved from one island to a different island because one island sank. So the ley lines are not the same anymore. I did have to do some pulling on those, and I can talk about that on my own YouTube, honestly, because it was a little bit intensive. But it was a really, really cool temple. I love Philae. I would have laid there in the middle of that temple all day long.
It was so nice to just sit there and like watch the river and be there. It's also one of the most intact temples, like still the way it looked at the time. Yeah. Which is really cool to be able to walk through that.
Yeah. I definitely cried about plants once when we were there. I was like, oh my God, there's plants around this temple. Because when every time I would drop down into Duat to look at the temples, they'd be covered and surrounded in plants. Yeah. And then when we get to Philae, I'm like, oh my gosh, it actually has plants like it used to have the plants.
Yeah.
And that was really cool. Because,
it was very much more of like oasis-y kind of energy there too, or like almost jungle-y kind of
it was energy, very jungly.
Which very verdant feeling to it.
At one point we noticed, so Krista Weston and I and a couple other people were together, and we noticed people were on the roof of the temple, and Krista and Weston were like, we're gonna go figure out how to get on the roof. And then I lost them. I don't know where they went. They just were gone.
Yeah,
so
we hung out for a while. It was fun.
So then I was meandering with Dominic basically, and a couple other travelers, and we found like the temple of the birth, which was really cool. And that was just like of birth, of child rearing, whatever, of like where Isis was born, basically, type of energy. It was really, really neat. And then we were just sitting there. I did some energy work for some people after walking through the giant sanctuary that was built by the Romans, because that's my zone of genius, is the Romans. So we did some energy work there. And then we wanted to go down by the water. So we walked around and we ran into another traveler, and Tiffany was like, I went down by the water. Let me show you. This guy just lets us go down. I was like, okay. So this man let us go down by the water, and there were ibises there too. So like, again, Thoth. And we were like able to touch the water. Like I put my hand in the Nile and got to sit there, and like it was really beautiful. And he took pictures of us, and then Tiffany's like, I bet I could bribe him and he'd let us on the roof. I bet we could figure out. And I was like, okay, like I'm along for the ride at this point, like let's do it. And she's like, hey, we want to go on the roof. And it took a second. He's like, can you see our tickets? And we were like, yeah. We showed him his tickets. He's like, okay. And he like walked us back inside the main part of the temple, which was very, very crowded at this point. By the time we walk back in, and he brings us over to I call them the guys in the galabeas, because there's just guys in galabeas that will, like, you can bribe to do stuff. And
they're
he brought us over.
Security, technically,
kind of, because there's also guys in like security jackets, so that's why I'm like, they're the galabea guys, and they wear like scarves on their head and like galabeas. They're at every temple, so like, it's just what they are, and they have keys to stuff, by the way. Like it's not like they're just poaching off of it, like they work for it in some way. But he brought us over, and there was like 3 of them, and Tiffany's like, we want to go on the roof, and they were like, no, and they checked our tickets, like, you don't have the right ticket. And Tiffany started pulling out like Egyptian pounds, and they were like, no, not gonna do that. And so then Tiffany reaches into her purse and pulls out a $20 American bill, which is over 1,000 Egyptian pounds. And she's like, roof, like, let's do it. My family and to the roof. And they were like, okay, 10 minutes only, like 10 minutes, like we can't do it. And she was like, okay, fine. So they literally had to like sneak us around this thing. They were like talking to each other on the phone to make sure no one was coming. Which is the weirdest thing as far as getting like bribed into places. That's never happened where they've been like that secret. Well, once it happened at some Sekhmet, but for the most part, people don't care. So then they like unlock this gate, and we go up this tiny thing of stairs, and we get to the roof. I thought it was just gonna be a pretty view, because it was a pretty view. And like I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing, and took a picture of like everything all around, and like it was really pretty. And I just thought it was gonna be a pretty view, because there's not usually things on the roof of temples. At all. It's usually not that way. It's usually that's just the roof. You're just whatever. So we're on the roof, and he was like, took a pictures of us, and he's like, come here, there's a meditation space, come here. And he like leads us over here, and there's this little stairs down, and you go down the stairs, and there's this gated door, and you go inside this gated door, and there's this tiny little room. Now the rest of Philae, all of the faces had been carved off of most of the iconography on the walls, because probably someone during the Greco-Roman time, or perhaps Christian time, came in and was like, bad deities.
They did turn something into an altar in Philae too, so
yeah, there's a lot of Christian ancient graffiti, honestly, that is in there, of which I still love, because it's ancient graffiti, and it's cool. It tells the story of our humanity, which I'm just like profoundly passionate about. But anyway, we go in there, and this room was untouched, and it depicted every single deity of the Egyptian pantheon that I at least know of was depicted on there. And I mean, even the most obscure ones. Opet was in there, of which a temple I go to at Karnak, which I had never heard of before this trip. Like, the walls were literally layers of deities, just one right after another, after another, after another. And he was like, meditate, just meditate. And he meditated with us, which I also thought was really cool. He sat with us and meditated with us. And we all, like, when I opened my eyes after meditating, the hieroglyphics were moving, like all walking around. And I leaned over, I think it was Alexandria. I was like, are they moving? And she's like, yeah, they're freaking moving. I'm like, okay, cool. Not just me. We all meditated in there. We got a picture in there. We were given like energetic gifts in there. I grew a bunch of flowers from the floor as like my offering. Like, here you go, have a bunch of flowers, like for the energy of the space. And then when we were trying to leave, he was like calling his friend, and he's like, no, we must wait. And we were all like standing on the stairs waiting. And then he's like, okay, go. Like, and we had to like run down the stairs. But we were very late, which Hani was very tolerant of, but we were very late. To meet back up, to get back to the main land. And that was where we also went past the dam, and the dam was real mad. The river was really mad at that dam. Like, you could feel her like roiling against it, just angry, which was an experience too. But I love Philae. It's covered with cats too. There's cats everywhere.
There's cats everywhere. It's such a good energy. It's really lovely. You take a boat to get to it, so there's like a full-on experience about it.
Yeah, honestly, I would love to just be there at night. I would love to be there. Maybe someday we will be.
We're both really bad at winking, so
I know.
we'll just leave that hanging.
All right, everybody. This was Egypt Part 2. There will be a Part 3, and that will also be our bookend, because we did read really good books this month, by the way.
So it's more like Egypt Part 2.5 and bookend.
Yeah. Egypt dose. I don't know. It's like, what do we want to do? Anyway, there's a lot of scary energy right now. Don't adopt it as your own. Remember that the world bends to your intention, so really set that and continue to hold on to that. And stuff is changing really quickly and really rapidly, which we're also going to talk about a little bit next time, because it's powerful and stuff is moving, and keep optimistic and keep hope. There's a lot of that going on. So
we have Mercury that's stationed retrograde on Monday if you're listening to this on Tuesday or Thursday, so woohoo. But also we have the full moon in Libra on the 12th, the same day that Venus stations direct after the perfection of the full moon, but still it's on that day. That's also got Mars square to it. So the really important thing here is not to get frustrated at other people, conquer the problem together, do not attack each other. It's very like the Venus retrograde energy in general really showing up that day, especially irritated by Mars. It can be very easy to feel hurt, attacked, or whatever on that day. Just remember, it's not you. It's usually not a personal thing. It's a reflection. Find the balance from an objective perspective. Create balance without sacrificing your energy.
exactly. And we hope you take all of this energy and you, 1, 2, 3, go make some magic.